Peace. It's your boy Mayhem once again, and I'm back with another On This Day in Black History, February 28th, 1704. Elias Noe, a Frenchman, opened school for blacks in New York City. February 28th, 1708. Slave revolt in Newton, Long Island, New York. 7 whites were killed, 2 black male slaves and an Indian slave were hanged, and a black woman was burned alive in this revolt, or as the result of this revolt. Or maybe that's what caused the revolt. That sounds a little more realistic. February 28th, 1778. Rhode Island General Assembly, in precedent-breaking act, authorized the enlistment of slaves. In 1778, Rhode Island passed the Slave Enlistment Act, which allowed enslaved men to join the Continental Army and be immediately freed. This act made the first Rhode Island Regiment and the first African-American military regiment. February 28th, 1859, Arkansas legislature required free blacks to choose between exile and enslavement. That sounds crazy. February 28th, 1871, Second Enforcement Act gave federal officers and courts control of registration and voting in congressional elections. February 28th, 1879, Southern blacks fled political and economic exploitation in Exodus of 1879. Exodus continued for several years. One of the major leaders of the Exodus movement was a former slave, Benjamin Pap Singleton. 1932, Richard Spikes invented and patented the automatic gear shift. Richard Bowie Spikes was an African-American inventor who held several U.S. patents. He is credited with the developing and improving inventions such as a beer tap, a modification of an automatic gear shift mechanism for motor vehicles, and a safety braking system for trucks and buses. The United States population, February 28, 1940, was 131,669,275. The black population was 12,865,518, 9.8%. Richard Wright's Native Son, published. February 28th, 1942, race riot, Sojourner Truth homes in Detroit. The Sojourner Truth riot was a violent clash in 1942 between white residents and black families moving into a housing project in Detroit, Michigan. The project was intended to help black defense workers during World War II. In 1943, February 28th, Porgy and Bess opened on Broadway with Anne Brown and Todd Duncan in the starring roles. February 28th, 1945, Charles Bubba Smith was born. Every now and then you run into a character who is bigger than life. Charles Bubba Smith of Beaumont, Texas, at 6'7" and 270 pounds, did both literally and figuratively fit that mold. Bubba was a passenger on the Underground Railroad of talented black athletes from the Jim Crow South that prohibited players from playing in the South. The many Bubba sightings and urban legend stories that still exist to this day on the MSU campus are a telltale of a man who easily adopted to the big stage. As one of the best pass rushers in the game, Bubba often drew 2 blockers, yet was effective enough to make 2 Pro Bowls, 1 All-Pro team, and be recognized through the Vince Lombardi Trophy. Bubba was enshrined in the College Football Hall of Fame in 1988. Between 1979 and 2010, Bubba appeared in various roles over 22 movies and television performances. February 28th, 1948, Sergeant Cornelius F. Agenti becomes the first martyr for national independence of Ghana. February 28th, 1968, Juanita Long Hall, a 20th century actor and singer, was born in Keyport, New Jersey on November 6, 1901, to an African-American father, Abraham Long, and an Irish-American mother, Mary Richardson. Raised by maternal grandparents, Long attended New York City, New York's Juilliard School of Music. While a teacher, she married Clement Hall, who died in the 1920s. The couple had no children. Her early career was in singing and choir directing. From 1935 to 1944, she directed the Works Progress Administration Chorus From 1941 to 1942, she also directed the Westchester Choral and Dramatics Association. In the early 1940s, she led the Juanita Hall Choir, which performed on radio with Rudy Valley and Kate Smith. And in 1949, the Juanita Hall Choir performed in the film Miracle in Harlem. In 1935, Hall performed with the Lafayette Players, an African-American theatrical troupe. Her first major acting role came in 1943 when she appeared on Broadway in The Pirate. Other Broadway acting opportunities came, and she performed in Sing Out, Sweet Land, St. Louis Woman, Deep Are the Roots, The Secret Room, Street Scene, and The Ponder Heart, all between 1943 and 1956. Hall's major break came in 1949 when she was cast as Bloody Mary in Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein's South Pacific at the Majestic Theater. In 1950, Hall became the first African-American to win a Tony Award when she was named Best Supporting Actress for her role in South Pacific. Hall played Bloody Mary for over 1,900 performances of South Pacific before beginning a brief career as a nightclub singer, performing mostly in Greenwich Village venues. In the early 1950s, Hall starred in the radio soap opera The Story of Ruby Valentine. In 1954, Hall was cast as a West Indian brothel keeper in Harold Arlen's House of Flowers with Pearl Bailey and Diane Carroll. In 1958, she played a Chinese-American marriage broker in Rodgers and Hammerstein's Flower Drum Song. She reprised that role in the 1961 film version of the play. In 1958, Richard Rodgers requested Hall to again play Bloody Mary in the film version of South Pacific, which was shot on the island of Kauai in Hawaii. Hall's television appearances in the 1950s and early 1960s included The Ed Sullivan Show, The Coca-Cola Hour, The Perry Como Show. Affected by diabetes with failing eyesight and health, Hall performed in A Woman and the Blues, featuring her nightclub and Broadway acts in 1966. Her condition led the Actors Fund of America to stage a benefit performance on her behalf in 1967. A year later, on February 28, 1968, Juanita Hall died in Bay Shore, Long Island. She was 66 at the time of her death. February 28, 1970, Abdul Diop. Diop, the son of a postman, was a member of the Serer people and a devout Muslim. He attended the well-known Lycée Faidherbe in the capital of Senegal, and the University of Dakar. In 1958, he went to Paris and studied law at the Sorbonne. Shortly after his return home in 1960, Diop joined the civil service and was appointed to a succession of posts, including regional governor from 61 to 1962, secretary general to the government 64 through 65, and Minister of Planning and Industry from 1968 to 70. On February 28, 1970, Diop, a member of the Socialist Party, became Prime Minister, a post that had just been reinstated through a change in the Constitution. He retained the position for 11 years, and upon the retirement of President Leopold Senghor and ordinance with the Constitution, Diop became president in 1981. As president, Diop stressed cooperation with other African countries. In the early 1980s, he oversaw the creation of Senegambia, a loose confederation between the Gambia and Senegal that existed between 1982 and 1989. He gained national prominence as a delegate of the Organization of African Unity, OAU, in 1983, playing a key role at the June 23rd summit meeting, and as the organization's chairman in 1985 through 86. With his decisive leadership and moderation restored confidence in the troubled body. He served a second term as OAU chairman in 1992 through 93, and he was also chairman of the Economic Community of West African States, the Islamic Conference, and the G15 nations. After the 1988 elections, which Diop easily won, charges of fraud led to violent protests. A a state of emergency was declared, and Abdoulaye Wade, leader of the Senegalese Democratic Party, was briefly imprisoned. Unrest continued, however, as the country faced a faltering economy, border tensions with Mauritania, and fighting by Casamance separatists. In the March 2000 elections, Diouf was defeated by Wade, thus ending the Socialist Party's 40-year rule of Senegal. He served as the Secretary General of the International Organization of La Francophonie from 2003 to 2014. February 28th, 1977, death of comedian Eddie Rochester Anderson at age 71. February 28th, 1984, Michael Jackson, entertainer, wins 8 Grammys. Musician and entertainer Michael Jackson wins 8 Grammy Awards. His album Thriller broke all sales records to date and remains one of the top grossing albums of all time. February 28th, 1990, computing's Nobel Prize, Philip Emeagwali awarded the Gordon Bell Prize, computing's Nobel Prize, for solving one of the 20 most difficult problems in the computing field. Also, February 28th, 1990, singer Cornelius Gunter dies. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee Cornelius Gunter, lead singer of the Coasters, was shot to death in Las Vegas, Nevada. Gunter joined the group in 1957 and was around for such hits as Poison Ivy and Charlie Brown. February 28th, 2003, Roland Bullen was born on Curacao, one of the 6 islands that comprise the nation of Grenada, the product of a prominent family that owned several businesses, including the popular restaurant Callaloo. Bullen arrived in the United States in 1966 after obtaining his bachelor's degree in public administration at San Diego State University. And that is today, February 28th, in Black History. Make sure you like and subscribe, comment if you would. Check out all the other videos I've done on Black History on this day. Appreciate anybody who's checked out all the videos. This is the last one for Black History Month, but I will keep coming with some history videos and stuff like that in the same realm. So stay tuned and appreciate it. Peace.